Bill and Tammy Sr., thank you for being here today.
Appreciate the opportunity.
It's 8:30 in the morning. No, it's a Friday afternoon, so we're going to have a glass of wine. Well, you know the reason why I have you here is because I've been helping a lot of people exit their business and sell their companies, and the tragic thing is most of them don't have much reoccurring revenue. They work for 30, 40, 50 years, and now all of a sudden it's time to sell for a multiple, and they realize all along they should have been doing things differently. And you are the king, in my opinion, of maintenance agreements. Is this correct, the number 2 guy ever at Sonatrol?
Actually, I was number 1. I was 16 years old when I started, so I've been around a long time.
And I know you graduated Ball State, so was this in Indiana where this
Yes,
was?
started up in Anderson, Indiana, which is about 35 miles north of Indianapolis. Indianapolis. And my sister called me and said that this guy was looking for someone to come up and clean up, and I drove out in my 53 Chevrolet.
Yeah.
Met Bob Baxter, and he hired me, and I've been associated with Sonatrol other than the military ever since.
Yeah, and the other thing, I know you're a modest guy, but you teach Sonatrol U, so there's been thousands of students that have come through where you've taught them how to do maintenance agreements and create RMR and build value in the sales process. I always joke that there's more Sonatrol owners that have private jets than any other group of people I know.
Probably true.
It's because of the reoccurring, right?
That's right. You know, and I had a good mentor, because I started Sonatrol of Fort Worth and Sonatrol of Washington D.C. from scratch, and we always were taught that we never lost sight of the value of what we were trying to create on the reoccurring revenue side, and we do still today.
It's funny, I thought this was going to go like this. I'm now on question number 7 and question number 2 and all around it, but can you I know you very well, but can you brag on yourself on the 3 different Sonatrols you've owned? Fort Worth, DC, Indiana?
No, I was actually, I would say I did start Fort Worth from scratch.
Yep.
Moved down here from Indiana to do that. I was selling franchises, and I finally told my wife we should own one.
Yep.
So we brought everything we had down here. We started about 6 years later the Sonatrol of Washington, which was the greater DC area. And then I worked hand in hand for 18 years in both Sonatrol of San Jose and Sonatrol of Indianapolis. I didn't have any equity there. I was just a consultant to come in and work on the sales and marketing side.
So he's kind of like Harvey Keitel in Pulp Fiction, when they call the wolf. So you go off these Sonatrol franchises like the wolf, like, that's all you had to tell me is the wolf was coming in the silver Acura NSX. So, can you kind of demystify maintenance agreements, and it's great that you get extra monthly, and can you kind of talk, I've got about 4 questions here, but can you kind of talk about how you lay out a maintenance agreement, but then also what guarantee do you give back to the client? Because you have to build value in, hey, you're paying me X amount per month, but there's some guarantees you got to deliver on the back end. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, prior to 2011, and after 2011, when I think the industry from a technology viewpoint changed so much, especially in the camera world. Prior to that, and just straight intrusion, I just wanted to put an alarm system in your business. We took a philosophy of a bundled monthly, where the industry still today takes a more of an unbundled approach. We'll charge you so much to monitor the system, so much to maintain it if you want that. It didn't take me to realize that if you give that option, that you're always going to get the lowest number you can get. Where we took the position of we want our customers happy all the time, so we bundled our monthly. By that I mean our monthly included the monitoring, all service unless the customer caused it. If they wanted management reports, that was all included.
Like opening and closings?
Yeah, opening closings and that type of thing. We had some commitments we'd make to that customer when a loss occurred, or we gave them 90 days or 6 months to try us, and then we would take it out. And while I think this is important to our platform of this, while all that discussion about bundle or more reoccurring revenue to the owner does add value at some time they want to exit the company.
Yep.
I never looked at it that way. I always looked at, I wanted that customer 5 years from now. And I wanted that to keep that customer 5 years from now. I had to maintain this level of service. I came out of the of the late 80s and early 90s, Search of Excellence and all those type of books. And we focused in on service, and we felt like that if we took any drama away from the customer, we solved any problem for a fixed fee so they never had a surprise 3 years down the road, that we could do a better job of servicing that company and maintaining that relationship longer. So the customer never got any hidden service charges, and I think that we took that very, very seriously. Well, then when the camera opportunity came along, we almost, and we did for a long time, make a mistake. We did have the advantage on the intrusion side of having a differentiated product.
You had a unicorn, you listened, and you guys were really good at catching bad guys.
That's right. We had, our tech was audio, and no one else had that. We found ourselves in the camera business still wanting to maintain and assure that customer 5 years from now that system was going to be working just like it is the day they liked it. We found out that when it came to taking over a lot of camera systems, you'd take them over because that particular customer knew it was time and material and maintenance if they had a problem, so they'd have to call to get that fixed. And too many times they wouldn't do that, so that they'd allow the system to deteriorate to a point you almost had to replace it.
Sure.
So we fell into that trap. The first time out of the box was we were selling cameras just like everybody else. Probably the same camera in many cases, because we all have the same access to cameras.
Sure.
And we were the only company out there putting a maintenance contract on it. So that not only we were probably higher than most people, we were also at that point adding this maintenance contract, and we were losing a lot of sales. And I don't brag of myself very often, I don't think.
You really don't.
But I did step back and say to my associates, we're doing this wrong. That we're looked at like I go to Best Buy and buy a TV, and they work harder than they can sell me a maintenance agreement for the wrong reason.
Yep. And
that we made two important changes, I think, in our strategy. One was we eliminated the term maintenance agreement.
Okay.
We call it, and it can be floated around, but basically, in my world, we always called it a quality assurance program.
Yep.
And then the decision became, what do we need to say to that customer that they're going to see value in paying me a fee in addition every month to maintain that system? And I'll give you some ideas of some of the things that we did.
And still do, right?
And still do. I mean, we just had a Sonotrol U class today. We went over this very same thing.
You were there all week, and I dragged you on a Friday.
Well, I had a good glass of wine.
I know how to lure you in.
You've been very fair. Well, you know what.
I know how to lure you in.
The first thing I think that anybody you want to do, and again, keep in mind the strategy was not to get any kind of long-term monthly agreement to build value in the customer. I think sometimes that's the benefit.
Sure.
But the real reason you're doing that is you want customer satisfaction so they never look at anybody else.
Yep.
Okay. One number thing we'd always do is we'd give them a period of time to try that camera system out, and if they didn't, it wasn't working. Number one complaint, as you know, in camera systems, I'm not seeing what I thought I was going to see.
You're right.
If we had any of those complaints and we couldn't fix it, we told them we'd take that system out and give their money back. So they had no risk to give us a chance.
Nobody does that.
And we do it, and
how long do they have until they can?
Well, some of my associates do it for 90 days, some do it for 6 months. I got asked at this week, how many times have you had to give the money back?
That's a great question.
I actually came up with this idea to the Sonotrol Network in 1984.
Wow.
I said, hey, let's give these people a chance. We were a unique product. They'd never heard of us. So I've been selling some kind of time guarantee to any system I sold since 1984, and I've given the money back one time.
Wow.
And all that time. And that's a lot of systems.
One time in 35 years.
Yeah. And it's a bizarre story on it. The reason we had a particular liquor store that was being broken into. He put our security system in. We had, I think, 2 or 3 apprehensions in the first 3 weeks. No one came back anymore, and he said at the end of 6 months, you solved my problem, I don't need you anymore. So, how do you solve stupidity,
You can't. It works so well that you work yourself out of a client.
So that brought us to this. We've got to maintain that customer's loyalty over the time of this relationship with the camera system. And the best way to do that is make sure that they'll call us if there's a problem so we can fix it. So satisfaction guarantee was one.
Yep.
We do give them a lifetime guarantee on the products that we put out there.
But is that because it's a lease? Are they owning it, or?
No, in most of our situations, it's a lease agreement.
Okay.
Now,
And we'll talk later, there's benefits from a company for depreciating those assets too.
That's right.
Sonatrol is one of the few people that have done lease. Brinks, back in the day, Mass Market Resi did lease. Mm-hmm. So you got depreciation from a business standpoint. You can take the equipment out so it can't be taken over, and then you can refurbish it and repurpose it.
That's right.
So there's a lot of benefits to leasing.
Now, I won't let ownership be a deal breaker. I mean, if whatever the customer fits best for them, we'll make that work. But I don't know why they want to own that equipment.
Sure. Why would you want to own a computer from 1984?
That's right.
94, 2004.
So we do guarantee them that we will maintain that system on those parts in that system as long as we are doing business together. And we also give them a service guarantee, and I think this is very unique in the industry. We'll commit, now it'll vary by city and location and type thing, but if they call us because that camera system is not operating like we said it would, we'll be there in 3 hours or same day, but we'll commit to a time frame to be there, and they're not going to be billed for that. Yep. Now, they may get a trip charge, to be honest.
Sure.
But they're not going to be billed for a service call out there. And once we get out there, we'll do this, which is really unique, is if it's a component that's in that system and we can't repair it right then, or we have to take that including the VCR or the DVR,
sure,
and it can't work, we'll loan them one to keep that camera system working until we get that fixed. Or we'll replace it with whatever's current, and if we do replace a component, we don't necessarily worry about going back and matching the one that's 4 years old.
Sure.
We'll put the latest, greatest in at that particular time.
And I remember that, I've been fortunate through the years to be able to do business with Sonatrol as a manufacturer's rep representing products, and they would always come to me and say, hey, we need some extra gear. If you want my business, you got to give me a couple of loaners. Mm-hmm. And I always remember that being a unique situation because they had to have something on the shelf to swap it out in case something went down. And I really can't think of too many other customers through the 30-something years that said, hey, you want my business? I need some extra gear to use your product. So that is different.
And the last two I put in there, as you know, I'm sometimes a little technically challenged by the technology. Yeah. I don't worry about it, I just admit it. Yeah. But we also put in there that we'll guarantee that customer lifetime training on that equipment.
Ooh.
So point. That if they change people internally, we'll come out and retrain those people. Now, we have gone to a couple times, say maybe 2 times a year.
Sure.
But we started out by you hire someone new, we'll come out and train them on how to use that system. And I think that's big because then the person who made the acquisitions, they don't know how to run it, and sure, if they lose the person who is in charge of it, we'll get them up to speed to get the full. And again, that's a very hidden benefit to us. I want them to get the full utilization out of that system.
Sure.
I don't want it to be like I do most of my stuff that's underutilized. Yep. I want them to get the full benefit of that, therefore there'll be never changes. And the other is we'll guarantee them that if they're trying to retrieve information from what's stored and they can't get it, we'll provide technical assistance. No guarantees that we can get it either.
Sure.
But we'll supply them with the technical expertise that we have to try to get that data that they're looking
sure.
for.
They have a break-in, police need the video.
That's right.
You're going to assist them so that...
That's right.
But if you think about it, there's other industries that are smart like this. Try to cancel a credit card. They'll do anything possible to keep you as a customer. Try to cancel Dish or DirecTV. They'll do everything possible because those industries realize how much the cost of acquisition of a customer is versus trying to just keep one happy. So what you're saying really kind of makes sense. One thing that really kind of stuck is, and I wrote the Happy Meal versus a la carte. it seemed like Sonatrol wouldn't let you pick apart and go, you know what, I don't want the fries, I don't want the apple pie. You guys would put everything together so that it'd be hard to tell or pull out the fries out of the Happy Meal.
That's right.
And I've also, your son, I've been on a ton of sales calls with him, and what I liked about it, and I wrote here, is there's no check down. It's basically, this is what you're selling, and you don't fall back to, you would say, hey, I'll do a lease or an outright sale, but there's no check down to, hey, we got this, cheap thing here. You guys would have that, sell the value, and if they didn't want that, so be it. Where so many people are tempted, okay, you don't want the platinum, I got the gold, I got the silver.
I have that.
And that, through the years of calling on a lot of different alarm companies, it always amazed me that you guys would walk versus having a check down deal. And I think it's smart, because most weak salespeople are going to go to the least expensive thing, and if they got it on their choices, they're gonna lead with it because they're not confident enough to go with the higher end.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, because I do think that's imperative in the Sonatrol, or at least my philosophy. And I said this today to this group of salespeople: you're really not a sales rep, you're a consultant. And our job is to understand the needs based on what you've told me you want and come up with the best solution. But the way I look at it, Tim, if I convince someone to choose me as their provider of security, I have just accepted a responsibility to protect everything they own. Yeah. And I'm not going to lower my standards on that. And because I think what we do is very important. I don't want to come back out 90 days later when they got broken into and a bunch of stuff and say, well, you could have done this. And you're right. I have never in all my 50 years experience in this seen any company successfully build the value in their company by having an A level, B level, C level, because they always end up saying it's on the C level. And I didn't like the whole ring of it. This is what you really need.
The whole what?
The whole ring of this. This is what you really need, but if you don't like it, I'll sell you something less to protect what you own. Yeah. I don't see how we do that. And our industry has devalued itself, in my opinion.
You led with a lot of camera stuff, and Sonatrol kind of became me too with cameras, as all of us. But in the beginning, with Sonatrol, had an audio, and everyone else would make a bunch of noise, scare the alarm guy, or scare the bad guys out. I call it turn on the lights, the roaches scatter. Sonatrol was great at letting the roaches come in there and having the cops arrest them. The other thing that the whole industry looks at with Sonatrol is the fact that police love responding to your calls, because when you get out of military school, or police academy, you get a gun, you want to pull your gun and get a bad guy. You don't want to go see a kicked in door and people were gone 30 minutes ago. So that was the other great thing when Sonatrol started, is the fact that you guys had a unique offering. You caught bad guys. People got fed up with other alarm companies that didn't really catch guys. And that was something. That was something that was very different. But I still think in today's age, with video verification and a lot of other ways, there's ways to build value on getting the police there faster, like Sonatrol's always done.
Absolutely. I think most people, if you talk to them, they don't want someone stealing their stuff, and that the average most police dispatches on anything that's not verified, whether audio or visuals, 45 minutes. Well, you can really hurt a company in 45 minutes.
Sure.
Where the average police response time on something that is verified is around 7 minutes now.
Yep.
And if I can get and to your point, Sonatrol's history, this concept was developed by a police officer. I was there back in college working at Sonatrol when this guy comes in. Uh-huh. And we still, the core values are the police perspective. I want early detection from any point of entry. I don't want a lot of false alarms, and I want to catch them.
Yep.
And 185,000 people since 1975 have been apprehended on Sonatrol.
Wow. We're
the only alarm company out there that actually tracks that.
Yep.
Really?
Well, because other ones don't catch that many. I remember, we wrap video verified products in our product line, and I had a meeting with about 20 people that own alarm companies at a central station, just a third-party central station. I said, I want you to write two things on the same piece of paper: how many years you've been in business and how many bad guys you caught. And so we're up to like, I don't know, 240 years and 4 bad guys. I go, so obviously what we're doing is not working. So SonoTrol's done a phenomenal job. Today there are other things that can help you verify. But the other thing I'd always say is if you could get a toll tag and go on the express lane while all the other roads are jammed up, would you do that, and is it worth more? And that's what I look at SonoTrol or any verified system is like a toll tag, an express lane for the police to get to your place, and you're
Great
not getting
analogy.
jammed up with all the false alarm signals. It's 90-something%
98.
are false. Yeah. So if I was a police officer, it'd be the boy that cried wolf. We're probably kind of putting them in harm's way because we're conditioning them to think nothing's going to be there.
I agree.
And one of these times, something's going to be there, and they're going to get a real bad surprise.
Well, and if you look at most cities, so a lot of cities today, and it's really going that way in Wave right now, is anything that's verified gets a higher rating or a quicker police response time. And verifications, I see it, I hear it, or someone's actually calling in and they are actually seeing it.
Yep.
And I think video verification is a great application for the conventional industry to get a form of verification.
Sure.
Now, are you better off if you're both audio can you see it and hear it at the same time?
Sure.
Sure, that's a higher level, especially because the audio portion will allow you to detect it earlier.
Sure. But 40 years ago, all you had was ears.
That's
now
it.
you got eyes and ears.
That's
right. But let's get back to how do you figure out what you're going to charge on a maintenance agreement, and when, as a second question, when would you not charge for a maintenance? And what I always joke is SonoTrol won't put a contact on a door without charging $2 more a month, and I mean that as a positive thing. And I'll say one other thing before I get a chance to answer it. I always ask alarm guys, I'm like, hey, how many car alarms are you doing? They're like, we don't do car alarms. I'm like, well, why not? You're willing to put an access control or a video system in and not get any reoccurring revenue. Why don't you do car alarms too and not get any reoccurring revenue? And when you say it like that, they're like, that seems absurd that I'm not getting a reoccurring from access and video. And what I really think is most people want to charge for that. They just don't know how. They don't know how to justify what they're charging for. So when would you not do it, and how do you figure out on the maintenance agreement?
In our world, our rule of thumb, if it's going to be a quality assurance program on a camera system, it's between 1% and 2% of the install fee of the camera on a monthly basis.
Like, give me an idea with what that is.
So if I had a $30,000 closed circuit television system,
It's
that was the
$300 a
install.
month.
That's what I would charge $300 to maintain that.
You said 1 to 2, so 3 to 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, before I go to where do we not do that, I would say to you, you're going to get asked, just like we're asked. Well, if I take that $300 times 60, if you have a 5-year agreement, I bought the system all over again.
Sure.
And the answer is yes, you have. Because 5 years from now, it is critical for me to know that you've got a system that you're just as happy with today as you were the day it was in. So we're always going to keep that. You're always going to have current technology and have a system that's working how you want it to work. And I feel that to be the case. Now, if you never say never, but
Sure.
But
let me jump in there real quick. So to me, what I jotted down is it's like the guy that buys a car. We've all done this throughout our lives, where you go, I'm going to drive the wheels off this thing. And other people are like, you know what, I'm going to trade them in every 2 to 3, 4, or 5 years, whatever their number is. And I feel like if you don't do a quality assurance program and you just bought a camera system from some person, you're driving the wheels off that thing. You're going to wait till camera falls off, camera falls off, camera falls off. Versus if you do a quality assurance, it's almost like going, hey, we're going to give you like a lease deal. We're going to give you a new car every 2 to 3. You're always going to have a new car. So it's almost like you got to go, which type of guy are you? Are you just going to wait till this thing falls apart and then have to buy a brand new one? Or are you going to make sure, why did you get it to begin with? You got it because you're having employee theft or a loss or slip and falls or whatever, but to have half your system not working at any given time, that's not good either.
Because the alternative is, if you're the end user and you choose not to have some kind of program in place to maintain that system, you're going to have to call when it goes down, and they're going to charge you a service call. There's hidden cost. You never know. It's unpredictable cost, and we want to eliminate unpredictable cost. And so I think it's a better value to the customer long term to say, okay, I'm going to maintain this system to the current standards at this time all the time.
Sure.
And your analogy about the car is dead on. Now, I'm not saying that there have not been times that me or my associates may take a camera deal without a maintenance agreement, but I bet I can count it on one hand. And now that I'm older and I can do things that I didn't used to do because I don't necessarily have to make this sale.
Sure.
I think I'd walk if I didn't get a quality insurance program. Because I want to say to that customer this, 5 years from now, I want to be able to use you as a reference. I want you to be able to say, you go with this guy's company and take their agreement, because I've never had a problem with my system that they weren't out within 3 hours to fix. I never had that camera system down for 3 weeks to get a spare part. And now I can use you as a reference. If I go the other way, I'm not going to be use you as a reference 5 years from now anyway. And I think that's my message to our original conversation. Will that quality assurance program, if I wanted to exit my company, add value to it? Absolutely. If that's going to go to 36 to whatever 40 times, that's counted. But that's kind of almost a hidden benefit.
Sure.
The real benefit is I got that customer 5 years from now. I get more add-on business to them. I get referrals from them, and that I think, here's my world. As hard as I work to get that new customer, I got to work 2 times as hard to maintain them.
That's just a winner's attitude. The other thing I think happens is you've owned businesses, I own businesses, and so I think if you're a commission sales guy that's trying to feed your family, sometimes you might not think about the guy you're selling and what's important to them. Capital expenditure, CapEx, you got to sometimes go up and get approved, but like a monthly, $300 to $600 a month on the maintenance, that's just an expense. And a lot of middle managers or managers, they can expense that, and they're almost in relief knowing that, hey, no matter, let's say $300, no matter what happens to this camera system or burger system or whatever, it's $300 a month and I know it's okay. I'm not gonna get a surprise 10,000 CapEx. And so I think sometimes if you've never owned a business and you're a salesperson, you're like, man, I just don't know how I can ask for that. Well, the reality is the guy you're selling would rather have a predictable amount, knowing that everything's okay. And so I don't think there's enough value out there for the salesperson to understand you're really doing them a favor by giving a fixed, no surprise. I mean, think about it. Let's say you have 10 grand of an expense on a camera system, and you're the manager that's going to be paid whether or not you hit your P&L, profit and loss, on that month. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to delay that so the camera system doesn't get fixed, or you can take the hit, maybe not make a bonus. It's painful whichever way you do it, whereas the 300 just kind of make sure everything's okay.
And they don't want that surprise. I mean, they would, if they get approval for the $300 a month, now they know that 3 years down the road, they're not going to have to go explain some $15,000 expense that no one expected.
That's a good way of looking at it. You got to get blessing from above one time for this 300, but you don't have, let's take 5 years, 60 months. You don't have 60 months worth of a surprise 10 grand by just getting a yes one time on the 300 right there.
That's right. And I'll tell you what, the battle we fight is a lot of times I think that if you're not careful, they're going to view this the same way they go to Best Buy.
Yeah.
We got to get out of that. We got to get out of that realm that we're not some kind of maintenance contract in case a component breaks. We're going to maintain this system for the next 60 months so 60 months from now, it's working just like it is right now.
Yep. No
No surprises. And I think you have to hang in there, primarily because most of our competition's not quoting this.
You're right.
So now you're going to be the only one asking for another $300 a month. And we even have got to, I do this now, if I'm at the beginning of the sales call, and there's a camera system in place I'm going to take over, I'm going to try to take over, I'm going to ask them how they maintained that system and how did it get in the shape it is now.
Yeah.
And we're going to say, we're going to bring to you a program to maintain the system. If we are lucky enough during your business, we're going to give you a program to maintain it, and we suggest you do that with anyone you talk to.
Yeah.
I mean, I want the competition competing because I think long term I'll get mine on service and reputation and that kind of thing.
Sure.
But the customer is better served long term with some kind of program in place to maintain this stuff.
I think sometimes you just got to point out the pain. When we moved in this property, the first thing my wife did was get exterior lighting. And the guy tried to sell me a maintenance agreement where he'd come out twice a year to make sure all my lights work. and me being cheap and buying. I'm typically not cheap, but it was cheap on this decision because I look at everything as, are they getting the reoccurring or am I getting the reoccurring? And I view it as that was an opportunity for them to get the reoccurring. I looked at it incorrectly because now I came home and this tree wasn't lit up, this part of the house wasn't lit up, and it drove me bonkers. And so I had to have the pain of that for me to sign up to his maintenance agreement. Now 100% of the time, if something goes down within a day or two, I've got the light back up, my OCD gets in check, but I had to feel the pain of having downtime. And so I think what you just said about taking over an existing system, if you remind them of the pain point, like me having the pain point of lights being out, then they're like, okay, yeah, I don't want to go through that again. It's worth whatever. And if you really understand, you got 16 cameras, weather, lightning strikes. There's just a zillion things that could happen. So why would you not get an agreement on
just
that?
Not. Now I will say to you that you ought to mention this, that if a company is going to take on a program like this, they got to perform.
Yeah.
So they need to have the manpower or people power in place if I can be there in 3 hours or the same day. They'll probably have to have a little higher inventory in case I have to replace an NVR.
Or go to your manufacturers and say, hey, I need for you to give me some demo pricing on it.
That's right.
Have some backups, have some spares.
So you cannot not deliver. You almost have to exceed expectations and internally manage and plan your business that if we're going to offer things like this, when it does happen, I don't see this any different than an insurance policy.
Yep.
When I got an extended warranty on my car, that's what they said. Hey, it's just an insurance.
Yeah, hope you never have to use it.
You never have to use it, but if you do, you're going to be glad you have it. That's exactly how I look at this.
It's funny. I had an insurance salesman that he goes, you can't pick your disability. He sold me a disability policy. I was a young guy, but he goes, if you die, it's over. But if you're alive, that's the one you're going to want, and hopefully you'll never use it. So my favorite policy to pay is disability, and hope to never use it. The other point that I think the most important, and we probably could have led with it for the financial people, but that $300 times roughly 35x is what things are going for. That $300,000 you got from that, that $300 you got from that customer is worth $10,000 worth of value when you exit. So I always say, guys, for every $3,000 worth of maintenance agreements, it's $100,000 brick in your building of your business. So for every $3,000 worth of maintenance, and your scenario is like 10 customers or 5 customers, depending if it's 300 or 600. But now you're building a $100,000 brick in your business of worth, and then another $100,000 worth, another $100,000 worth. So is it worth getting your guys and not having a check down position? Is it worth having some extra equipment? Is it worth making sure that we're going to honor being there in 3 hours or 1 day or whatever it is? Because depending on how big the city is, I think it is, because I don't know anything else you can do that can build $100,000 bricks in your business.
Nothing.
And so, back to when, I think I've sold 40 something alarm companies, help broker them, and it's just depressing when you see people that are a little bit older in life and they only have this much reoccurring revenue. You wish you could take them back in a, Back to the Future time machine and go from the beginning. Let's start offering maintenance. Let's do this, do that. It would totally change everything. I'm not saying sell your business, but if you have all this reoccurring revenue coming in, there's lots of other things you can do. So that's the thing that you just got to commit to, but it's worth it.
Well, if you look at this, forget the big national owned companies, but if you're a local entrepreneur that started any kind of company like this, at some point you're going to do one of two things. You're going to sell it, or you're going to pass it on to your family and keep it in the family. And they are great lifestyle businesses, so there's no doubt about that. But either way, you're either passing a piece of something on to your family that's worth a lot more, or you're going to retire on a lot more money if you choose to exit. And I just can't. And you'll also, back to this point, you'll still have a lot more customers, because if you do this right, you're not going to lose that customer.
You're right. How can they leave? You got a 60-month commitment. It's funny. I had a guy the other day that said, well, I really love my employees, and I don't think this is that important. And I'm like, well, if you love your employees, this is important, because one of your exit is an ESOP to sell your business to your employers. Well, guess what? For them to be able to buy you out, they got to go to the bank and have something bankable. If you don't have reoccurring, you don't have something bankable. So if you think about it, the three kind of common exits are hand it off to family members and have them pay you a residual, like an insurance company type scenario. ESOP, but your employees need to be able to go borrow the money to pay you out. And then finally, a straight exit to a larger fish gobbling you up. And they're going to, unfortunately, I get guys going, well, my name's really good and I got shiny trucks. Or my favorite that I hate the most is everything's done on a handshake. I don't have a contract. I'm like, congratulations, you have a non-sellable business. So any which way you look, any which way you look at it, by having these maintenance agreements, it's going to improve the value no matter how you're going to exit.
Absolutely, and you'll have more to hand off, not only in money but in customers.
Yeah, that too.
Because I tell you what, we take over a lot of camera systems right now, and I'd much rather go make a sales call today on someone that's had a camera system and let it deteriorate to the point they aren't happy with it than go try to. I only got to sell them one thing. I can prevent that from never happening again. If they've never had a camera system, I got to sell them twice. You need one, I'm the one you pick, and then we got this. Because we take over a lot of cameras, and we actually use this to our benefit.
Sure.
We will never allow your camera system to get like yours is right now.
Drive the wheels off.
That's right.
Bill, is there anything else you want to add? I think you've hit on everything.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. I do think it's critical in our industry not to lower our standards, but I'd like to see our industry begin to raise our standards back up and not look at it just a sale, but we're protecting all the assets of people and take that seriously, and this will help you do that.
I'm going to add one more thing on top of what you said, but I got a lot of people that are worried about mass market resi. They're worried about Amazon coming in, Ring coming in. So I've got like a lot of resi guys going, man, I need to get into commercial. And I mean, like in droves lately. They're worried about the acquisition from Amazon of Ring. And what I've said is if you're going to get into commercial, do it right. And do it right by offering a maintenance agreement right from the word go. And so I think you've got people that are going to be coming into more the commercial to weather the storm residentially, which might be a permanent storm. But then you also have guys that are just never figured out how to ask for it the right way to begin with. And I think, like you said before, it's got to be a total commitment, no check down. And you just
can't be a little bit pregnant. You got to go all the way, man.
Exactly.
and the residential market is what it is. And for whatever the reason, most of my associates back in 2000, when everybody was getting in the residential market, we chose not to. And so that you're probably going to want that scenario you just said. They probably want to go into small business type applications. They'll see that as the way in. And there is a good transition there, but go in right. I mean, go in, take the high road. Get the good business and get paid properly for it and maintain it, and they'll be a customer for a long time.
Bill, I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity.